You have been hearing me talk about all this higher ASP business, but is it even working for me? Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Danica. I'm a part-time reseller based in Calgary, Alberta. I upload reselling videos here on YouTube every Monday and Thursday, and today's video is all about an update on my business model that I've been working on since January, I would say. So since January, I have been making a conscious effort to source more higher priced items, or items that I think will sell for $50 or more. That is my baseline. Now, I have not really adjusted what I'm willing to pay for those items, so that's just something to consider during this video. But I wanted to give you an update because I have been talking about this a lot. I've been talking about it in every single video that I upload. I'm talking about hitting that higher ASP. And so to give you background, previously in my reselling journey, let's go from the very beginning. So when I first started reselling, I started by selling all of my personal items that I just wasn't wearing anymore. I listed a pair of Lululemon that were too big for me and they sold within a day, and I was hooked. From there, I went through my personal closet and grabbed anything that I had not worn in however long and sold through all those items within probably a week. After that, I remember I was on a layover in Smithers, BC, and walked to the nearest thrift store and bought a Roots sweatshirt and a plaid flannel top and sold those pretty quickly. So I knew that I was onto something and that I had found something that I was good at. Something that I kind of had an eye for and that I was successful at right away. I think that is probably one of the biggest components in my success, is that I, from the get-go, saw results. So that was very encouraging to me. If it had been taking a while for me to make sales on Poshmark when I first started, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it, but I got really lucky. I got on Poshmark Canada pretty much when they got to Canada, because it was not in Canada until May 2018, I think, but it had been in the US for a while. So just coincidentally, I hopped on Poshmark Canada right when they got here, and yeah, I just got really lucky, I think. So from there, I looked online and found a bunch of resources on social media, Instagram, YouTube, about reselling. I did not even know there was a word for it until then. I started researching brands, started researching styles. I started researching just everything. From there, I started obviously thrifting to resell online. If we fast forward to the pandemic, I was laid off work in April 2020, and there is where I really buckled down and started actually working and intentionally getting better at reselling. Before that, I wasn't too worried. I had a steady paycheck coming in from work, and this was just like kind of for fun on the side, extra money. And then when I was laid off work, I was still making a paycheck, but it was much less, and so I did rely on reselling full-time to cushion my income, really. I did not have a car when I was reselling until January 2021. So I resold full-time for like 6 months or however long without a car. I was taking the bus or Uber, well, usually Uber, to thrift stores here in Calgary, and even the bins, which was expensive because it's a 40-minute drive each way, and just like sourcing like crazy, and I just made it work. Okay, and then I got a car and things really started moving for me. I was able to go sourcing whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted, and I could start being a little bit pickier. When I started back at work, I went back to work July 2021, I think. I was laid off for 18 months. So when I went back to work, I thought, oh, this is going to be so easy. I will just keep volume selling, because that's what I was doing for the year and a half I was laid off. I was volume selling. I was sourcing and listing so many items per month, like over 100 a month, which to me now sounds crazy. It was not unusual for me to go to the thrift store and source like 25, 30 items, come home, wash them all, photograph them all, and list them all in a day. Like, I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I had the energy for that back then, but couldn't be me. So when I went back to work, I thought I can just keep doing this. I've got like the momentum is going and it'll be easy. And it was not. I found it so hard to juggle reselling, YouTube, and work, and like personal life. So I just kind of struggled with everything for a long time. I thought I just kept trying to stay in the same level, and obviously that didn't work for me. I was away at work all the time. Work was really busy at the beginning when I went back, so I was away from home 12 to 14 days a month. Yes, I can bring my laptop to work and list on the road, but I don't really like doing that, to be honest. It's not really my vibe. I don't know. That's just me. I was definitely able to bring my laptop and like edit while I was at work, but listing, I don't know. It was hard too because I was listing and selling on 3 different platforms while I was full-time when I was laid off. I was selling on Poshmark Canada, Poshmark US, and eBay. I was giving eBay a little bit more attention than I do now. But so it was doing better than it is now, but still not crazy. But my Poshmark US was crazy. It popped off. So while I was back at work, if I was away for 14 days a month, it was really hard for me to juggle my US shipping because I do have to bring it to a different courier that brings it across the border for me. So it is just a different process. I have to package everything, label it, and then put everything into a manifest spreadsheet and then drive it to the courier, and then they take care of the rest. But still, even though it is a short drive, it does add to my day and it adds to my workload. Also worth mentioning that although I started taking YouTube more seriously while I was laid off, I did stay pretty consistent with it even when I went back to work. That is like one area where I was able to just keep doing what I was doing. And I like to think I'm improving my videos, improving my editing, improving everything as I keep going. So that's fine. That was not as hard for me to juggle. I'm able to batch content every once in a while and then I'm good for a bit. Right now, I'm kind of in the mode where I need to batch some content because I think I'm gonna have a very busy summer, but that's besides the case. So right now, that brings us to May. We're in May 2023. So I've been back at work now for a couple years. That is crazy to think about, but I have. And so I'm just at the beginning of this year realized this is not working for me. Trying to volume sell is not working for me. I had tried doing live shows. I was doing mystery boxes. And although I enjoy that, it just did not fit in my schedule. I would love to be able to source 3 times a week at the bins, come home and have 3 live shows and make, some money. But to me personally, I did not find that the live shows were worth the time they take. Yes, I was making a chunk of money, but when I look back at how much I could have actually made on those items if I had just resold them myself, it is more than what they sold for in the show. But the positive on the live shows is that, well, you do need to make a new listing from scratch. So it is almost like it is just a new listing. So I was gonna say you don't have to do all the work, but you do still need to do all the work. That brings us to present day. January 2023, I decided that's enough. I can't do this anymore, and decided to pivot to a more higher ASP business model. This is something I had been thinking about for a while, but honestly, I was doubting myself. I didn't know if it was something I was knowledgeable enough to do. I didn't know if it was something that I could actually pull off since I had been volume selling for so long. It actually kind of scared me to just make that drastic of a change. But I went through my Poshmark closet and I got rid of anything that I thought would not sell for more than $50. Of course, there are some exceptions. I'm not going to say 100% of my items have an ASP, which is average sales price, of $50 or more. Some obviously have more, some have a little bit less, but for it to sell for less has to be an item that I actually really love. And so that's that. But I went through my Poshmark closet and I got rid of more than 100, I think it was like 120 items. I gave them away to a local reseller and just kind of started with a clean slate. Since then, I have done, I think, 2 more purges and brought items to the consignment stores. It is a hard task for me because if I sourced an item, it means that I really liked it. I like the style, I like whatever it may be. So it's really hard for me to be tough on the inventory and to pull items that I think are not getting the justice they deserve. Some of them I feel like they just need to be styled properly or whatever it may be. But it was really hard for me to do that. So I just did another round recently and I've got my inventory down now to, I think, maybe 200 active listings. And yeah, another thing is my death pile is much smaller than it used to be. I joke all the time on Instagram about a crazy death pile or whatever, but right now I have mostly shoes in my death pile because I don't know how I'm going to store them. I just overhauled my entire inventory system in the spare bedroom. So shoes is what I'm struggling with right now, but maybe what I will do is just list them all and just, I don't know, hope for the best, hope that a whole bunch of them sell right away, and then it'll be manageable for me. But what I wanted to do in this video is give you an update on how that's been working for me. So like I said, I started in the new year consciously sourcing items that I thought would sell for more money. And so that's what I did. So I have like a little bit of a month by month breakdown of what that looks like, and we'll talk a little bit about each month. I should have done a comparison to last year, but let's see, maybe it'll be in my taxes. We'll see if I can get that information for you right now. Okay, so let's compare things a little bit here. Don't mind me, I'm just looking down on my notes here. In January of 2020, let's do 22, I spent $677.50 on 131 pieces, which means my average cost of goods was $5.16. That same month, I made $1,251 and sold 50 items, so my average sales price was $25.02. In January this year, I spent $117.84 on 9 items, which means my average cost of goods was $13.09. So that's almost triple what my cost of goods was this time last year. I made $1,176.33 selling 27 items, which means my average sales price was $43.57. So that is $20 more an average per item than last year. So when we look at this, my goal was to make about the same amount of money doing less work. So in January, if we're just comparing month to month, January 2022, my income was $1,251. And January this year, it was $1,176. So that is pretty good. I would say that's almost, it's quite even. Now moving on to February. February 2022, I paid $369 for 13 items. So it was a pretty slow month sourcing for me last year. So my average cost of goods was $28.38, which is a little high. And February 2022, I made $1,131 selling 36 items, which means my average sales price was $31.42. In February this year, I paid $499.24 for 45 items, which means my cost of goods was $11.09. So my cost of goods was lower, even though I paid more, but just because it's the average, I got more items than I did last year. And I made $1,843.14 selling 36 items. So this is quite the difference. I made $700 more this year than I did last year in the same month, and I sold the exact same amount of items actually. So my average sales price in February this year was $51.20, which again is $20 more per item than I did last year. We're on the right track here. March of 2022, I paid $559.92 for 92 items, which means my average cost of goods was $6.08. I'm guessing I went to the bins a few times in March, which really brought my cost of goods average down. I made $2,164 selling 54 items, which means my average sales price was $40.07, which is not bad at all. That is close to what my goal was this year. So I would say, looking at these numbers, I was already on the right track. I was already almost making the average sales price. I was just making a lot extra work for myself. March this year, I paid $721.73 for 59 items. My average cost of goods was $12.23, so definitely paid more for inventory March this year. I made $1,874.85 selling 40 items, which means my average sales price was $46.48. So when we look at this, I did make more last year in the same month, but not that much. So that is something to consider. I would still call that month a win, honestly. And lastly, April, because we are in March now, April 2022, I spent $653 for, get this, 290 items. What? So my average cost of goods was $2.25. I would bet money that I was sourcing at the bins in April last year. That is for sure. I made $1,322 selling 49 items, which means my average sales price was $26.98. That is low. April this year, I spent $277.79 on 38 items. My average cost of goods was $7.31. So definitely higher than it was last year, but not too bad. I mean, considering it's my lowest cost of goods this year so far. And I made $1,173.84 selling 43 items, which means my average sales price was $37.02, which is way lower than what I'm aiming for. So this is a good exercise for me too, because I mean, full disclosure, I do not really keep track of these numbers month over month. I would, at the end of the year when I'm doing my taxes, see this, but definitely something I want to start keeping tabs on way more. I want to be making sure that my efforts are being rewarded, you know? How I changed my sourcing strategy to accomplish this, even though April was not, I did not hit my goal, I would still call this a win, because to me, I'm still sourcing less items and making less work for myself and still making decent money on the side. So how I changed my sourcing strategy was checking comps on pretty much everything I'm sourcing. I still need to work on this. Sometimes, you know, I grab something and check comps when I get home when I'm listing it, and I'm like, why did I grab this? I should not have grabbed this. Something else I'm doing is obviously just using my experience. I have been reselling now for, you know, almost 4 years, which is almost 5, what? Has it been almost 5 years? That is insane. I think my like posh-iversary is August 2018. So that's coming up here, 5 years. That is insane to me. But in those 5 years, I've learned a lot. Although I will add that you need to keep updating your knowledge, because what resold 5 years ago is not what resells now. I think it's really important to keep up to date with trends and with comps, basically. There are different niches of reselling where you don't really need to source anything that's trendy. If you have your own style and can lean into that, and you find a market for people with the same style, then absolutely go for that. That is not really my strategy. I kind of wish it was, but I just haven't really been able to grow that kind of community on Poshmark. Next is being way more picky when I'm at the thrift store about what I'm picking up. I kind of touched on that just now, but I definitely, when I'm in the thrift store, I'm doing multiple rounds of cuts. I'm going through and looking at my cart with a different set of eyes and going, okay, why did I grab this? Is it because it's just a good brand? Okay, if it's a good brand, is it a good style? Is it a good style that sells? Is it, you know, like, you have to ask all these questions, and I have to scrutinize every single item that I'm picking up. The next thing that I would say I changed while sourcing is trying to be less impulsive when sourcing, which is kind of what I just talked about. Grabbing less. I will let myself grab whatever I want when I'm in the thrift store and put it in the cart, but it's about then after that looking through again and saying, okay, are these really the best items? Are these the items that will bring me the most profit? And only keeping the top however many. I'm not like sourcing 10 items or 50, like an number of items, but my goal is to kind of think of my workload. Will I be excited to list these? Does it need fixing? Does it need to be washed? Is it stained? These are all things you have to consider, which are adding more work when you're going to list, right? How many times have I pulled something and gone to photograph it and said, oh yeah, this, I needed to stain treat this, or I needed to clean these shoes. I haven't gotten to it yet. And then I just like have to do it then, and I'm just like so not in the mood to do it then. So those are all things to consider when you are considering pivoting to this kind of business model. This is definitely something I want to keep at, and ultimately hopefully keep increasing it to $70, $100. That would be amazing. If I could just source like 10 things a month that sold for $100, maybe 20, then that would be awesome. But I'm not there yet, but we're going in the right direction. I made like a pros and cons list of this style of reselling. So the pros I have is making similar income for much less work. So when you look at the side-by-side metrics of month versus month, 2022 versus 2023, I am sourcing way less items. And I will say, I love sourcing. Sourcing is the best part of the job. Shopping, right? Like, I love going to the bins so much. It is just like so much fun for me to dig, and you just don't know what you're going to find. I know the thrift stores are like that kind of, but there's just something about the bins that are different. And yeah, I just love going to the bins. So, but I am sourcing less, which means that I have less listing to do. I have less of a death pile that's accumulating. I have less photographing to do, less listing to do, less shipping to do. So those are all positives in my book, personally. I'm spending more times on other areas of my business. So whether that be YouTube, whether that be cross-listing, whether that be making my listings better, whatever it may be, because I'm not spending as much time sourcing, I'm able to put that time towards something else. I'm also freeing up time in other places in my life. I've started going back to the gym. So I have like an hour and a half, 2 hours every night where I can just go to the gym, where before it would have been like, oh, I need to get things listed. I would have been stressed about how much of a death pile I had and desperately trying to get through it and just continuing that cycle. Whereas now I have more time to hang out with my boyfriend if we want to watch a movie, or we want to watch a TV show, or we want to have a late dinner on the barbecue and eat on the balcony. Like, those are things I like doing, obviously. So we took a day off last week and went to the Nordic spa, and I was not worried at all while we were there about how many listings I had put up this week, or anything like that, you know, which has been amazing. Next, I am leaning into brands and styles I know I can sell for $50 or more, which is for me right now, like if you look at my what sold videos and stuff like that, like Aritzia, Lululemon, and maybe Vintage are like my top selling brands. When you start sourcing and selling like this, you start seeing all the patterns. So that's been something that's been really helpful for me, is just instead of having this many things that could sell for $20, I'm shrinking it to this, and it's much easier to source for this than for this, for me. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else, but that's just how my brain works. It does, yeah, like it gets a little bit boring, but whatever. Let's go back to the top of my cons list. Less listing, like I said, or less sourcing, I would say. I love sourcing, so that's a big con for me, is that I'm spending less time at the bins and at the thrift store where I love being, but it is what it is. I would say sourcing like this is getting a little bit boring, just because there is less room for sourcing items that are just bringing me joy that would sell for less money, which is kind of what I was saying. So when it comes to items like vintage items that just catch my eye and I just think are beautiful and rare, and I just like want someone to appreciate them, I don't find there's as much of a market on Poshmark for those items. If I wanted to go more on Etsy, maybe there would be more of a market there, but I'm not trying to really diversify my platforms as of right now. So the main takeaways of this video is I'm excited to keep at this and see maybe increase my ASP even more. Ultimately, I've been talking about this for a year. I would love to become just like a luxury reseller, but there is so much work that I have to do before I even get close to that. I have been dipping my toes in the luxury pool and not doing well, honestly. So that is definitely something I need to research so much more, but I'm looking forward to that. One thing about me, I'm a Virgo, I love to research, okay? I love to research. So that's not a problem for me. That is something I will continuously be working towards. I'm happy to see that what I've been working towards has materialized. When I started getting ready for this video, I literally had no idea if the numbers would be good or bad. For all I knew, I would have just been like spending more on inventory and making less. But I'm glad that's not what happened. I'm hoping I can streamline my processes more. So since I'm like doing less sourcing and listing and stuff, I do have more time to spend time in my Poshmark room and just get everything super organized and get my processes like way more streamlined, so that when I'm away, my boyfriend can do my shipping for me. And yeah, that's just like one of my big goals right now, is just getting all that like super easy to manage. And I will check in another few months. So let's say hopefully I do another check-in in September and see how summer was for me. Everyone's worried about summer slowdown, but honestly, I don't believe in summer slowdown. I will keep plugging away at reselling and seeing what I can do and seeing how much profit I can make over the summer. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you for watching it. Hopefully you watched till the very end. Let me know what your business model looks like, if this is something that you're interested in, or if you're more of a volume seller. If you're a volume seller, just know that I am jealous. I wish I could volume sell still, because it is like so fun, but it just does not work with my life right now. But yeah, leave me a thumbs up before you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you do. Like I said at the beginning, new videos every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you check back for a new video then. And until then, I'll see you next time. Bye.